Right, so welcome to MailChimp Tips and Tricks webinar. My name is Jen Woodrum. I'm joining you from Dallas, Texas. I've been a PD coach for about 4 or 5 years. We also have Michelle Foster joining us from Nebraska. She's also a PD coach and is going to be facilitating questions. For those of you who aren't familiar with Zoom as a platform, if you need to access the rest of your computer at any time, if you hit the escape key, that'll take you out of full screen mode, and then you'll be able to access your start menu and the desktop and all of that. If you have a question or comment for us at any time, if you would use a chat window, we're not able to see or hear you, so we need you to use the chat to put that in, and Michelle will make sure to let me know any questions and comments that you guys are sharing. You can kind of monitor your own privacy settings with that, so if you want to only go to the panelists, you can designate that in the chat window, or you can let it go to attendees and panelists. It's up to you. If you're in full screen mode and you find that the video of me is floating around, so like for example, I can left click on my video and drag it around the screen. If you find that it's in your way at any point during the webinar, that's all you need to do is left click on it with your mouse, and you can move it to other places. There's going to be some times when I'm using that upper right hand corner of the screen. And I'll try to say that so that you know to look up there when that time comes. So our webinars up to this point have been Introduction to MailChimp and MailChimp campaigns. Last week we talked about how to create a template, how to use Wycliffe branding, and how to use that template to create a campaign and then to send and schedule those campaigns. Today, during the tips and tricks, we're going to talk about how to sort of interpret the reports that MailChimp generates, how to integrate your account with Facebook, how to verify and authenticate your account, and then how to use a multi-user account. At the end, we're also going to talk a little bit about how to add a PDF to your email. I think I talked about that a little bit last week. That's a question that we get a lot, so if we have some extra time, I'll cover that again. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment so I can switch screens. Okay. So let me know if you cannot see my MailChimp, because that is what hopefully you are able to see at this point. I should say good morning, Jen. So again, we're going to look at reports. I'm going to do that by going to campaigns. Okay, so in the upper left-hand corner, it says campaigns. I'm going to click there. And you're able to see reports for any of your past campaigns. Okay, so if you scroll down, any of the campaigns that you've sent. Obviously, if you've not sent a campaign yet, there's no report that's going to go with it. And so if you go down to any of the ones that you have sent, you're going to see this option to view report. I want to look at a specific one today because it'll have links in it. Okay, so I'm going to look at I'm going to view the report for this specific campaign. Okay, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff even on this beginning screen, right? So for some people, they're going to have one title here and another title here. Okay, you'll see I have a question mark up here, whereas here I have no question mark, but I've included the word update, and there are some emoticons. Okay, so this top one, MailChimp Workshop, is when you first hit the Create a Campaign button, it asks you what the title of that campaign is, and that's where you're going to find this heading. This one down here is actually when you go to create your campaign, and it asks for the subject line. So typically I'll make these the same. Just because when you do make them different, it can be confusing if you're trying to find a past one that you've created and you remember this one, but not this one. This is the only one that you're going to see in your list of campaigns. You don't actually see the subject line, so keep that in mind. But again, most people are going to make these two the same. Switch report, so if you don't want to look at this report, you actually want to look at a report for a different newsletter. This is one of the places that you can switch reports. We're going to look at this overview screen first. You'll see that there's a bunch of different options here. So we're going to start with overview. 55 recipients, that's just saying how many people have received the newsletter or update. List is the list, so the list of contacts that I sent it to. If you send it to a segment, so if you send it to a group or a portion of your list instead of your entire list, it should show you that here so that you'll know who this specific update was sent to. Delivered is just giving you the time and date information of when it was sent out. These 4 links do not do what most people think they do. Okay, so if I click view email, it's actually going to show me the newsletter in the browser, like you see here. Okay, if I click download, print, or share, it's not going to download, print, or share the newsletter. It's going to download, print, or share the report. Okay, so don't be surprised when that happens. It's going to just download the information that we're going to talk about today in these reports. These numbers do not matter to us because we don't use our newsletters or updates to sell anything, so you'll never see those numbers go up. The open rate, this one's really high, 80%. Typically, this is below 60%. Okay, so if you're getting anywhere between 40 and 60%, you're actually doing really well with your open rate. Same thing with click rate. These click rates are typically really low. That's normal, unfortunately. We're going to talk a little bit about the accuracy of those numbers here in a little bit, but just don't be shocked when you get a 40% or a 35%. That unfortunately is pretty typical for these sorts of things. Scrolling down a little bit further, you're going to see 4 different numbers. The first one is opened. Now you're going to notice this 44 opened is different than the total opens, 85. So what's happening there is that this number is reflecting how many unique individuals opened it. So 44 different people opened this email, but these 44 people opened the email 85 times total. So some of them opened it 5 times, some of it opened 2, some opened 4. Okay, so that's the discrepancy of these two numbers, and it's the same with clicked. So 6 individuals clicked on links, but at least one of those individuals clicked on either 2 different links or on the same link twice. Okay. Bounced is referring to people who didn't, the email is undeliverable. And so there's 2 different kinds of bounces. There are hard bounces and soft bounces. A hard bounce indicates that there's some permanent reason that MailChimp isn't going to be able to send the email to that email address. So this has happened to me a couple of times. The biggest time it happened was the church, one of the churches that partner with me, changed the name of the church. And when they changed the name of the church, they also changed everybody's email. All the staff's email addresses changed. Since my MailChimp account didn't get that change immediately, all of those emails then bounced because those email addresses no longer existed. Okay, so if an email address no longer exists, or maybe the email address got inserted incorrectly, there's a couple of different reasons that this can happen, but a hard bounce means MailChimp tried to send the email, it didn't work, and it's never going to work. So we're going to take this person off of your list. When they take the person off of the list, they move it to something called a cleaned list. And the cleaned list is the place where you're going to find all of the emails of people who have either had a hard bounce, I'll talk about soft bounces here in a minute, or who've unsubscribed themselves. Okay, and I'll show you where you can find that later. But to keep in mind, the cleaned list is not something that you can empty or delete. I've had some emails with people asking me, well, how do I remove people from the clean list? And the answer is you can't. They're on that list because they're not meant to be re-added to a list that's currently full of subscribers. So they don't want you to add it to a list of people who are receiving it. That makes sense. The next kind of bounce is the soft bounce. And the soft bounce is that there's a temporary reason that MailChimp's unable to send the newsletter. So maybe the person's inbox has too many emails and can no longer receive new ones. Maybe that email server is down for some reason. Maybe there's some security problems going on. Whatever it might be, MailChimp decides that that's probably a temporary situation. And so it's going to keep trying to send the newsletter update for up to 3 days. If after 3 days it still hasn't been able to send it, it's going to stop trying, but it will not switch it over to a hard bounce yet. Now, if you send out 7 separate campaigns, and for those 7 campaigns, the same email soft bounced each time, and was never resolved, okay? It was never able to send. At that point, MailChimp will clean that person off your list because they've not received it after seven different campaigns. So that's how to understand bounces. If you do have a bounce, this will become a clickable number, just like these are blue, and I can click on them. You'll also be able to click here. Unsubscribe is just what it says. If somebody uses the link in the footer of your email to say they no longer want to receive your emails, you'll see that number start to go up. So successful deliveries, this would change, again, if you have bounces, this would change. Last opened shows when the last person opened the email. Forwarded is not what most people expect it to be. Again, forward does not, this number will not go up if one of your partners, so say you send your update to a partner who uses Gmail, and from Gmail, that person forwards your email to a friend or to a church or to a pastor. A couple of things to be aware of. The first is that does not count as a forward on this screen. Instead, what happens is when the person who received the forward, so let's say a pastor was forwarded the email. When the pastor opens the email, the open is actually going to be counted for the person who originally received the email. Okay, so you won't see the forward number go up here. Another thing to be aware of is when somebody forwards an email in that way, if the person who received the forwarded email, okay, not the original sender, if the person who received the forwarded email, in this case the pastor, hit unsubscribe, the pastor is not unsubscribing himself. He would actually be unsubscribing the original person who received the newsletter, which can be a problem. Okay, and so MailChimp has created a way around that, which is what this is looking at here. And so they actually create a forward form that we're going to talk about more next week about how to actually set one up. But so you know what it looks like, as it looks like this, you can obviously change the colors and names and some of the text and stuff. But this is what a forward form looks like. And so next week I'm going to talk about how to use merge tags. And so you would actually use a merge tag with a button or a link that would say forward this email to a friend, and then they would click on it and be able to use this form. If they use this form, then this number would start to go up. There's also a way to do a forward email. Again, I'll talk about that next week, but there are some different options to do that. So it's just something to be aware of. If you have advocates who, one of the ways they like to share your Wycliffe ministry with their friends is through forwarding your email, you might want to share this with them and show them that there is a button that they can now click to forward your emails to people. Okay, so that's what that's referring to. Abuse reports is going to refer to people who are unsubscribing themselves. When somebody unsubscribes, they're given options as to why are you unsubscribing. Is it just you don't want to receive the email anymore, you're getting it too often? But a couple of those options are, I never signed up for this email to begin with, or this email is spam, things like that. So people can choose that as an option of why they're unsubscribing. If they do, then that would be counted as an abuse report. Now, this is the reason that we don't want to hop on Facebook or get a copy of our church directory and just start adding people to our newsletter list. We actually want to make sure that it's people who have told us, yes, we do want to receive your updates. So don't just add people because you happen to know them. Make sure that they do actually want to receive it. 24-hour performance is not showing the past 24 hours. It's showing the first 24 hours from when you sent the campaign. So I set this campaign at 12 p.m. And so from the time I sent it, for the next 24 hours, it's monitoring when people opened it. People sometimes use this to decide that they want to send their newsletter at a different time than what they did originally. So you can use that however you would like. Top links clicked. If you have multiple links in your newsletter, it's going to give a list of those and show which one was clicked the most. Subscribers with most opens. So this can be a little deceptive. Okay, so you see some people opened it five or six times. Sometimes I've seen this number be up to 17 or 18. Obviously, we don't believe that that person read the newsletter 17 times or even probably 6 times. The way that MailChimp account opens is they embed a 1 pixel picture in the newsletter or into your email. And so MailChimp knows that somebody's opened your newsletter when that little image downloads. So if you have partners who have email clients that don't automatically download pictures. So for example, I use Outlook. My Outlook is set so that the images do not automatically download. So I could end up reading people's newsletters and MailChimp would not count those as opens because I didn't download the images. Okay, so if you have people who don't download images, they might still be reading it even though they're not counted as opens. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we're going along. But that's something to keep in mind when looking at this screen as well. Social performance, tweets and likes is referring to Twitter and Facebook. If you copy and paste, if you put your newsletter on Facebook and you get likes on Facebook, those likes are not going to show up here. Okay, what this is referring to is you can actually use a merge tag and put a Facebook thumb up like this directly into your newsletter. And so people wouldn't be going to Facebook to like it, they'd actually be liking it from the newsletter itself. If you do that, then this number will start to go up. Okay. This campaign URL clicks, I've kind of given up trying to explain what this is because I thought I knew what it was for a long time, but it'll say 2 here, and then this number will be 0 in other places, or it'll be higher in other places. So I can kind of speculate what this is, but I'm not sure. So that's what that kind of comes down to. I've tried to research it, tried to look it up, and not got any satisfactory answer about what's going on with this number. Top locations by opens, so it's just showing where people were when they opened your email. I don't know that this is super relevant to your PD, but it's kind of fun to look at if you do happen to have partners that are kind of spread out around the world. And that's kind of the ins and outs of this overview page. The next page that we're going to look at is the activities. You'll see that there's a whole bunch of options. We're not going to talk about all of them today. Sent to, if I click on sent to, it's just going to give me a list of all the contacts that I sent it to. Opened, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, is it'll show you a report of all the people that MailChimp has been able to count as having opened your email. Okay, so now remember I said they have that 1 pixel picture. So we don't want to assume that since people aren't showing up on this list that they definitely aren't reading it. Okay, why that's important is I typically encourage people, so if you have financial partners or prayer partners who you know pray for you all the time, who are dedicated to your Wycliffe ministry, and they seem like they're consistently not showing up as somebody who's opened your newsletter, is you might want to use that as a signal that you need to reach out to them. Now, when you reach out to them, you don't want to say anything like, hey, I saw that you're not opening my newsletters, or MailChimp shows that you're not reading them, what's going on? You don't want to be confrontational about it, but you can say something like, we started sending out our newsletters in a new way, and we just want to make sure that you're receiving them still, or you're receiving them in the way that you prefer. So it opens up a chance for them to say, oh, no, we haven't received them, or maybe they'll confirm if they do. So I have a couple of partners who faithfully read my newsletters, and I know because they are able to tell me what they read about. They're telling me what they prayed for. It's all about stuff that they've received in my newsletters, but they never show as opens in these reports. And so you want to be careful about how you use this information to communicate with people. Okay? So we just want to use it as an indicator that they might not be reading it, not that they're definitely not reading it. The star rating for each member is going to sort of indicate how frequently they interact with your updates. So if you have links, if you have videos, if you have how many times they open them, that kind of thing. The more they open and interact, the higher their star rating is going to be. The less they interact, the lower it's going to be. Now, this particular list has only received 2 or 3 emails from me, so I don't have any 5-star ratings because there's not enough data for it to have gone up that high. But as you send out more and more, you'll see some different fluctuations in the star ratings. People have used that for, if they want to target certain people and see if they've received their updates. Like I was just sort of talking about, it's another way to decide that maybe you want to reach out. Last change is interesting. And this is just going to be if you happen to notice it, okay? Partners are able to change their own information. So there's one of the links in the footer gives them the opportunity to update their subscription information. So I've had some people get in and change their names. I've had people get in and change their emails. And so that will just kind of indicate to you that somebody has in fact gone ahead and changed their own information. Okay. Other options is clicked. Clicked, of course, is going to show you who's clicked on a link in your document. It's going to look exactly like this. It's just going to show you clicks. Didn't open, bounce, unsubscribe. We've already kind of talked about all of these different categories. This is just a way to see what individual contacts show up in each of the categories. Okay. Links is referring to the links that are in your updates. So in this update, I had 3 different links. It's showing which links got clicked on the most. So total clicks versus unique clicks. So there's 6 total clicks and 5 unique, which means 5 unique people clicked on this link and 1 of them did it twice. Okay. This one unique click, 1 click, same number. Click map. It's more just interesting to look at than it is super helpful for what we're doing. But it's going to show you percentages of where people have clicked it. Now, the reason that they have this is people in marketing will typically use this to decide, maybe they'll send out 2 different versions of the same email, and they'll see that the button got clicked on average more in one place than it did in the other, and they'll use that information to design letters in the future. Okay, for us, it's not going to be quite that beneficial. But one thing I do like to talk about here is that when you put buttons and links into your newsletters, if you don't mention those buttons or links anywhere in the body of your text, nobody's going to click on them. Or the chance of somebody clicking on them are very, very small. A good story about that is that I have one partner who was very, very, very dedicated to my Wycliffe ministry. I got messages from her multiple times a week. She opened every newsletter, every prayer request. She's very, very involved. And yet these links down here, I've had in my newsletter for 4 years, but it was just last year that she saw it for the first time and clicked on. I got an email from her. I didn't know that you had a LinkedIn page. But in reality, it had always been there. It had been in every newsletter that she'd ever read. She just didn't see it. And so sort of the moral of the story is if you have a button in your newsletter that you really, really want people to interact with, so you're going to have to talk about it. And so you'll see 85.7% clicked on this button. The whole email is about this button. Okay. I've had other emails where I've created a button because I had some partners request text message prayer requests. And I wanted to poll my partners and see if anybody else wanted to be included in that. And so at least part of my message about a paragraph was about, if you're interested in doing this, here's the button to click on. And then I got a pretty good response to that. But it's because I talked about the button. And I put the button there and then not said anything, probably nobody would have clicked on it. Okay, so keep that in mind as you use buttons and links. And don't be super discouraged. So I know there's a lot of people here who will put, send me your prayer request, or send me a Facebook message or something like that. And they notice time after time that it's not clicked on. Probably most people don't even see it's there. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're looking at your reports and thinking about how you want people to interact with your newsletters. Social, I don't like this screen a whole lot because it's not super useful. No Facebook activity yet. Again, this is if you're actually using Facebook merge tags inside your newsletter. This is not going to show anything so if I go here and grab this URL and paste it into Facebook and share my newsletter that way, no activity is going to show up here. This is only going to show activity, again, if you've used a merge tag that places a like button inside of your newsletter. You can put share buttons and stuff inside of your newsletter, but it actually has to use merge tags in order for anything to show up here. The campaign URL activity, 2 clicks. So that's what I was showing you on the overview screen, and so I'm not really sure what it is. In the past, I've thought that it was sharing this link here with people, and if people have clicked on that link, that the number would go up. But I didn't share the link for this email in that way with anybody, and so I'm not, yeah.
It's when people click on the view in your browser link.
Right. Oh, the view in your browser link?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Which is
that one right there at the top that says view this email in your browser.
Yeah, I had something in my way. So this email in your browser, I guess, will make this number go up. Now, sometimes I see it here, and then somewhere else it'll be 0. So it doesn't seem to be consistent to me. But no geographic clicks have been registered. This is referring to subscribe forms. Well, subscribe emails. And so there's different ways that you can invite people to subscribe to your newsletter. One of them is by sending an email that has a subscribe form inside of it. If you send somebody that and they subscribe in that way, MailChimp tries to grab their IP address and let you know where geographically they signed up from. I've never had any data for that, but that's what this is showing you. And then refers. I don't know, Michelle, you know what that is? I've not seen that before. It's new.
Yeah, it's new. The referrals are new.
Okay, so I don't know what this is because I've never seen it before. Something to research for future webinars. I'm not going to go over the e-commerce conversations or analytics 360 because those are all for paid accounts, and we all have free accounts and do not use these for e-commerce. Okay, so we're going to skip those today. Instead, the next thing that we're going to talk about, and that's all we have for reports. So if you do have any questions about reports, do feel free to go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we're going to move into doing Facebook. So there's a couple of different times that I've mentioned integrating your Facebook account with MailChimp, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. Some of the logistics of that have changed over time, so hopefully all this information is still up to date. To integrate Facebook with your MailChimp account, you want to go to the upper right-hand corner where your name is, and use this drop-down menu, and then go to Account, and then go to Integrations. Okay, so Account and then Integrations. And you'll see there's actually a bunch of different kinds of things that you can integrate your account with. This one's already integrated because I need to switch MailChimp accounts. Let me log out. I'm switching over to the MailChimp account that I created in our intro. Oops. Just a second to log in. It won't let you log into 2 MailChimp accounts at the same time. I tried that once with really disastrous results. So if you do have 2 for some reason, I encourage you not to do them at the same time. Okay. So again, I'm going to go back to Account and then Integrations. Okay, so you'll see that there's a whole bunch of different options here: Facebook, Twitter, SurveyMonkey. I'm not sure what all the different integrations do. You'd have to kind of click on them and see what's going on with each of them. We're going to show you Facebook today. So you'd click on Facebook and click Login. If you're already logged into your Facebook account elsewhere, it should just do it automatically. If you actually sign out of your MailChimp account, then you'll need to use your password and sign back into MailChimp. Okay, so MailChimp would like to access profile posts and the Instagram business connected to your page. Choose what you allow. So you can turn this off, but it's not going to work really well, I think, if you turn this off. Instagram business connected to your page. I have no idea what that means, actually, Michelle. I don't know why they need access to Instagram. Probably you can turn that off if you want. And then, so if you turn that off or leave it on, and then click OK. I don't have an Instagram business connected to my Facebook, so it doesn't really matter for me. Computer's taking its time today. It should take me back to MailChimp. There we go. Okay, so now it shows me connected to MailChimp. It's showing which page that I'm going to be using. You'll notice that I can't actually change that. If you have more than one page, you can, but you can't tell it not to use any page. It doesn't mean that it's going to auto-post to that page. It means that that page is going to become an option when you decide whether or not you want to auto-post. It'll make a little bit more sense here in a minute. List to use is you do have to connect what list you want to use with your Facebook. So I'm going to do with Cliff Partners. Use a sign-up form tab is only going to be relevant if you have a page. If you're connecting it to a Facebook page, then you probably do want a tab so that people can click on that tab to sign up from your page.
Jen, we also might want to point out that this is pages with a capital P and not your personal Facebook page with a lowercase p.
Right, so this isn't your Facebook profile. With your Facebook profile, you can create groups and you can create like a business page or a ministry page, and that's what this is referring to. So you're not going to see a tab occur on your main profile. It's only if you also have a page set up that goes along with your Facebook. Form theme, I to this day don't know what this means. I say this every time I do this webinar. I've tried to search this before, and I'm still not really sure how it changes the way it looks, but presumably one looks one way and one looks the other way. You'd have to play with that to figure out what it actually does. Tab label is going to refer to, so I've said yes that I want the sign up form tab, so now I can say what I want the label to say. So, say whatever you want here. And then click Save. To disable the Facebook integration, you would actually need to go to Facebook, which is what it's telling you. It's telling you to go to Facebook and then go to the app settings page, and you would actually remove the connection from there. Okay. Now, once this is integrated, where you're going to see this show up is when you're creating a campaign. So when I'm creating a campaign, it's going to be down here at the bottom. Okay, so it's going to give me the option to post to Facebook. And so this is referred to in the MailChimp world as auto-posting. If you auto-post to MailChimp, if you auto-post to Facebook by doing this process, it will not use your social card, which has not been true in the past. Okay, in the past, we wanted to set up our social card if we were going to auto-post to Facebook. It doesn't necessarily do anything. It doesn't grab the image like it used to. And that's because of some security features that Facebook has set up. It will, however, if you decide to connect to Twitter, it will use the social card. So if you're using Twitter, do make sure you set up your social card. You also want to use, and I'm going to talk about social cards a little bit more here in a minute. You also want to set up your social card if you're manually posting to Facebook. So if I go here and grab this URL and put this URL on Facebook, then it'll use my social card, and then that's important to set up. Again, and for Twitter, but for some reason Facebook doesn't allow that to be done. So if you're going to post to Facebook, you actually want to add photos yourself. Okay, so you can go into add photos and then choose from your library of photos. Okay, insert, and now it's going to share that photo instead when it posts your newsletter. This right here, this asterisk straight line URL, don't change that. Okay, if you change that, it's no longer going to link to your newsletter. Okay, so that has to be there. Don't copy and paste a URL in there. Okay, so don't go here, copy this and paste. Don't do that. Okay, just leave this alone. This is a merge tag. We're going to talk about merge tags again next week. If you remember last week in the campaigns and templates, when we were talking about campaigns and templates, I told you don't change these in your footer. Okay, any place that you see this, unless you really know what that merge tag does and how to work with it, please don't change it, okay, because it's more likely to cause a mistake than it is to help you. You can change this if you would like. It's grabbing the title though, which you probably want to leave it the same, but you can change it if you'd like to. And then once you have that set, you're also going to have to select pages, right? So this is making me select the recruit testing page, which is interesting. It's not giving me a profile. So I guess you have to select the page. And then you can click Save Message. Okay. So now this is what's going to post to my page. when I send it out. Okay. Now, if you are using social cards, again, social cards are important if you're going to post to Twitter, if you're going to post to Instagram, if you're going to post to, I think, Pinterest. There's a couple of places that you can integrate like that and post. Then you're going to want to enable these social cards. Social cards is one of the reasons that you don't want to replicate your campaign. Okay? If you replicate your campaign, the social card is what's going to start getting messed up. It'll link to the wrong picture, it'll link to the wrong text. Don't replicate your campaign. If you really want to use your campaign as a template, then you need to save your campaign as a template and then start from that template when you make your new campaign. Okay? Please don't replicate your campaign and try to create a new campaign. It's going to cause you a bigger headache than you think it might. Setting up your social cards, you'll see that there's different previews for Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. This is going to automatically look at images that are already in your newsletter. Okay, so this is one that's already in my newsletter that's pulling from. You want these to be at least 450 pixels across. The maximum is about 600 pixels across if you're setting up your social card. It doesn't matter as much how tall it is, but it does matter how wide it is. With the title, maybe you want to use the title or the subject of your update or newsletter, and then write a short description. Do keep it short. We don't want to rewrite the entire context of our newsletter into this description. We just want it to be 2 or 3 sentences that sort of summarize or let people know what they're going to get to read about if they click on your newsletter in Facebook or Twitter. Okay. So that's the social card settings. And that's, I think, all that there is about that. The next thing that we need to talk about is verifying and authenticating your domain. This information has recently been updated by our IT folks, basically. Okay, so to authenticate and verify, we want to go back up to the top right-hand corner and select Account again. And this time we want to go to Settings and go down to, oh, they changed this on me. It used to say Verify. We're going to try Security. Two-factor authentication, account verification. But where's, okay. So, they changed all of this on me, I'm sorry. Two-factor authentication, secure process. It's logging into MailChimp, account verification. This is not what I'm looking for. I apologize for this. Okay, so what you want to do is go to this top upper right-hand corner, go to your account. Once you're in account, go to Settings and go to Domains. Okay. Once you're on your domains screen, you'll see that this one is already authenticated, but we need to verify. So to verify domain, just go ahead and click on this button. I'm going to explain why this is important here in just a second. Okay, but you're going to want to verify whatever email that you're sending from. You'll want to verify that. Okay. So send verification email. This is actually going to send you an email with a verification code. Once you get that code from your email, you would just paste it into here, click verify, and that would verify your domain. Authentication. This is the first time that I've ever seen this automatically authenticate. You might not see this automatic authentication if you're not using wycliffe.org as your email. If you signed up with wycliffe.org, it looks like it already automatically authenticates. Why that's important is that if you want to check this and make sure that it is authenticated, because wycliffe.org requires authentication now in order for your emails to be received by anybody. The reason for that is they set up new security features that do not allow your email address to be used by an unidentified server. Okay, so if it's not authenticated, then it looks like it's being sent from MailChimp. Wycliffe won't let you send it. So by authenticating MailChimp, it allows that a process to occur unimpeded. The reason that you want to go through and you want to make sure you do both of these, verify and authenticate. I'm not sure if you can authenticate if you're using an SIL address. It depends on if SIL has taken the time, and same with JARS or anybody else. Depends on if those organizations have taken the time to set this up. So Wycliffe USA has actually, the IT department actually took the time to set up the possibility to authenticate. Let me remove it just for a second and see if it'll show you. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so if you undo it, you have to verify your domain first before I can authenticate again. Interesting. So I'm going to have to do some research on this because they've completely changed the screen since the last time I did it. I apologize for that. Like, I was just here a couple of weeks ago and this was not like this. So I apologize for not being ready to talk about this. Some of the reasons that you want to make sure to do this is you're not going to be able to use a free email account with this. So I can't verify a google.com. I can't verify a yahoo.com or any of those other free domains. You're not going to be able to verify it because they don't want you to use they don't want this to be set up as a spam account. Okay, and so there's something called the DMARC policy that MailChimp uses, which is called domain-based message authentication reporting in conformance. And so MailChimp has set it up so that policy is automatically confirmed or used properly when you're using your MailChimp account, and that can only be done if you verified your domain, and that can only be done if it's a business domain. And so if it's, again, Wycliffe or SIL, you're okay, but you can't use Gmail. Hopefully that's understandable. Authentication is important, again, because it helps your email be delivered properly to your recipients. We've noticed a big flex in whether or not people receive emails based on authentication. So if you are able to authenticate, please take that step and do that if it's not automatically done for you. But authentication provides a trackable identifier that shows your subscriber's internet service provider that you're a legitimate sender. And so that's what helps your campaign arrive in their inbox properly. Again, this is not what I expected to find when I came to this screen. So I will be learning how to do all this again, and we'll show you in a video coming up on how to use this properly. If you're not able to kind of click through it on your own. Okay. So the last thing that we wanted to talk about today was multi-user accounts. To access multi-user accounts, so the reason that you'd want to use a multi-user account is there's a couple of different reasons. One is if you're a husband and wife that are using the same account, and maybe you want to be able to use your own computer, or you want to be able to edit the newsletter at the same time. If you're signed up as 2 users, you'll actually be able to access the template and work on it. Maybe one person's doing prayer and prayers requests, and somebody else is inserting the scripture impact story, or somebody else is putting the pictures. So that's one reason that you could use a multi-user account. Another reason is if you want your PD coach, your RC, or LC to have access to your account for whatever reason. I've had some people who reached out for help give me access to their account in this way. It allows them to, without having your password, without having your username, it gives them access to your templates and to your updates, so that if there's something that they need to change or make comments on, they're able to do that. So in order to set up a multi-user account, you go into this upper right-hand corner again and go to account. And then you're going to go to settings and users. Okay, so account, settings, users. And you'll see I have 3 users on this account. I put me in here twice just so that you could see what it looks like. I have Michelle and myself under a different email address set up as myself as a manager, Michelle as an author. To invite a new user, you just use this button on the top upper right-hand corner and type in their email address. Okay. So this is my personal email address to show you. There's different levels of access. And so viewer access only lets people view the reports. I'm not really sure if there's any benefit for us to use that. Author is going to let people make edits. And so if you want people to be able to get into your templates, into your newsletters, this is a good level of access to give them. Manager is not going to be a big deal for Wycliffe folks because we don't use the billings or add-ons. We don't use any of the paid features. So this isn't probably super important for us. An admin would just act like a second owner. Okay, and then once you've given them what level of access you want them to have, you can write a message from you if you'd like, and then click send invite. Okay, and you'll see that they're going to be under the pending invitations until they've accepted your invitation. They'll be down under pending. Now, once somebody has accepted the invitation, you can make them owner of the account. So if you want it to transfer ownership for whatever reason, you can click edit and switch them to owner. Okay. Now this owner is not an option until you've already set them up, until they've already accepted it. Okay. So when I initially invited this, owner wasn't one of the options. Once I've accepted this invitation, then owner becomes an option. And of course, you can also revoke access if you don't want people to have access anymore. Once you have a multi-user account set up, now I can go to campaigns and work with somebody on the same campaign. Right, so if I go in to edit this campaign, so you'll see a couple of different things here that you didn't see in the past. The first thing that you're going to see is this editing menu at the top. And so this is showing you who is currently logged in to this specific campaign. So right now, either myself or Michelle are both myself and Michelle are currently editing this campaign. It's not going to show everybody who has access to it. It's only going to show the people who are currently logged in and currently making edits. Okay. The other new section that opened up is this comment section. Okay, the comments is a way for you and whoever else is editing with you to kind of talk back and forth. Why is this not closing? Talk back and forth. So these are threads. So I made this thread and then Michelle made this top thread. And then once you go in, you'll see all the messages related to the thread. Okay. So one of the things that you can do is this is the way that you're interacting with somebody about your campaigns, is that you might want to set the notifications. So you can set the notifications to email people as updates are made or as replies are made to the comments. If these are not checked, then the person will have to sign in to know whether or not a new comment has been made. If they are checked, then they'll receive an email when a comment's made. Okay. Mark completed to just let you know that this is finished. Delete would completely delete the comment altogether. And I actually deleted the whole thread. Okay, so be careful with that. So just entering a comment is just typing in. Okay, so just a way to have conversations inside of MailChimp. Now, one thing to be aware of is as you're working on campaigns, especially if somebody else is logged in, is that the screen doesn't have to refresh in order for them to put a new for you to see what new content has been placed in. So Michelle, if you want to go ahead, okay, so my hands aren't touching my computer at all, but you're still going to be able to see when she made a picture change. Okay, so the picture changed even though I'm not touching anything. If I didn't refresh my screen, I didn't do anything. It's just showing me live what changes that she's making. One word of caution, I guess, if you decide to use this, is make sure that you're communicating with the other person about who's going to do what. When Michelle and I first did this, we were kind of talking through, okay, we need to change this, we need to change that. And she had mentioned, hey, we need to change the color of the button because it wasn't a branded color. I was like, okay, I'll do that. But I had scrolled down and was working on the footer. And when I scrolled back up, all of a sudden the button was already changed. And it threw me for a second, and it took me a minute to realize what had happened. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're communicating what you're going to change and what the other person's going to change, so you're not undoing each other's work, so you're not frustrating each other, so that this is an effective tool and not just something that becomes frustrating. Okay, and I think that's really all there is to the multi-user account. Yeah. So that's really all there is to how to use a multi-user account. We do have 10 minutes left, so I had planned to show you how to use a PDF again. If that's something that you don't remember me showing you last week or just need to see again. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions, and I'm happy to answer those as we're going along. So to add a PDF, again, MailChimp does not create PDFs for you. And the reason for that is they are an e-commerce platform. They're not set up for missionaries and newsletters. They're set up for people who are trying to sell things online. Okay, so since that is their target audience, they don't have any need to create a way for us to automatically create PDFs off of the content that we build here. And so they haven't. So if you need to create a print version of your newsletter or a PDF version of your newsletter, you're actually going to have to create it in another platform. So you have to create it in Word, you're going to have to create it in Publisher, whatever you used to create your print version, you're going to have to continue to use that. So the best way to set that up so it's easiest for you is to have a template for your print newsletters, have a template in MailChimp, and then you can just copy and paste the content back and forth. So hopefully it won't take you a whole lot of extra time to set up both versions, but you will have to manually set up both versions. Okay. Now, we have had a couple of churches reach out who are frustrated and said, please tell your members to send us PDF versions of their newsletter because we print them out for our members. And so make sure that, especially if you're partnering with churches, that you know how your churches want to receive your newsletter and make sure that they're receiving them in the way that they want to receive them. Okay. So if you have both versions and you want to add that PDF to your MailChimp newsletter, the way to do that is by creating a button. Okay. So remember, we went to Content, and then we want to grab a button from over here, move the button over. And we would change the text to say something like, and maybe you don't want something that long. Maybe it just says PDF version. Or maybe it says print version. Click here to print. You can have the button say whatever you think is most effective. And then, of course, we want to change the link. So the link is where you're going to add your PDF. So you want to click on File, and then that's going to take you to a place where you can, your file, your content manager, right? And then you're going to click Upload, grab the document that you want to put in there. I'm not going to do that because I don't have a document ready. I'm just going to add a picture. But if you add your PDF version, now when people click on this button, it's going to open up that PDF version for them. And it'll let them download it or print it or whatever they need to do. And again, we want to change the color to be a branded color and all that kind of thing. And you can play with the settings and get full width. So you can change it the way that you would any other button, but that's going to be the best way for you to share a PDF while using MailChimp. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. We do have our next webinar is MailChimp Advanced Tools, which will be held October 31st at 11:45 Eastern Time. In that webinar, we're going to go over things like merge tags, subscribe forms. There's an app that you can use on your tablet device called MailChimp Subscribe that some people like to use. I'll go over that a little bit. It's all going to be more advanced tools, things that you don't have to know to use MailChimp, but some people like to know. You're free to reach out to me if you have questions. Michelle is putting the email address into the chat window. So if you need to reach out because you have questions and you want help, I'm happy to do that. Later today, an FAQ will be sent out with this recording, as well as other resources and answers to other questions. And then we're also going to send you a survey that Michelle I don't know if you have the link for it or not, Michelle.
There is no link for it, so we'll have to send it with the FAQs.
Okay, so I will send you the survey with the FAQs later today. And then again, you'll receive another email with the survey tomorrow. There's just about 5 questions on it. If you take a few minutes to fill that out, we'll try to make these a little bit better for you guys each time. And I apologize for not having the correct domain and authentication information ready for this webinar. I'll probably try to create another video with that information so that if you need to watch it, I can place that in the FAQs so that you can give the information that you missed here. We're not receiving any questions, so I'm going to, everybody's been very quiet today. Yeah, Michelle just said MailChimp is notorious for stealth updating right before we do a webinar. They like to trip me up. I'm going to go ahead and stop.